I woke up in a hotel room in Kansas City, on September 11th. It was plain as day. I remember it so vividly.
We were getting ready for New Hampshire. I was in my office, and my general manager came in there and said, "Hey, turn the TV on."
I was in the office talking actually to somebody in Washington, D.C., and he said, "You just see that?" And I said, "No, what are you talking about?" And he said, "It looked like a small plane hit a skyscraper building in New York."
I saw one of the Twin Towers smoking, and I was like, wonder what happened. And it's like, well, speculation is a plane got into it. And I was like, well, probably a small airplane, something happened, and it was an accident, right?
Starting to be obvious that it wasn't a small plane, and all these things were going through your head, like, what's happening here? And then in real time, I saw the second one, and that's when it's just like, cold chills, right? I was like, oh my, what's going on here? Just, fearful almost.
This moment exceeded all of the emotions and the oh my godness that could have, your wildest imagination couldn't imagine that happening.
We were all just so stunned, and we just didn't know what to do.
A lot of confusion and just a lot of kind of fear for our country.
We had several officials that were in Richmond, Virginia, and I think Bobby Labonte and Joe Gibbs were in Kansas.
We were testing in Kansas. There's probably a half a dozen, 8 cars maybe testing there that day, and we all felt like, as a group of husbands and fathers and dads, we should be home.
After you absorb the intensity of what had happened, then the logistics of saying, okay, let's go home. Well, that's not as easy as it might have been before that.
Originally, my thought process from the pilot standpoint is, we'll get home what I call VFR. We'll stay at a low altitude, fly at a slower speed. We're going to get home. That's no problem. And as we started making phone calls, we really started to realize what it encompassed. And for the first time in history, the aviation community was on zero. It didn't have one. There were no airplanes in the sky. And then we drove home.
The whole country was shutting down. All the airplanes were being grounded. And we're kind of wondering, what are we going to do?
Scary time for, families, and, as a dad, worrying about what's the future going to look like.
By the end of Tuesday, we were thinking about, okay, it's probably not a good idea to go try to race this weekend. And then that shifts to, okay, if you don't, when do you do it?
We race, we keep racing. So I guess when I found out we weren't going to go to the race at New Hampshire, it was, now what? I just don't know what to do. This is what, racing is what we do.
I remember the conversations about, okay, we need to get back to racing so that we can help heal and help unite, the USA.
The first operational conversation with Dennis was logistically, okay, if we come back and we go race in Dover, what do we need to do to make sure we do it right?
Basically, he said you're going to have a lot of law enforcement agencies there, and we did. The tension was so high because nobody really knew what to expect in terms of what the next threat would look like.
It's okay to be scared, and it's okay to be frightened and worried about how you do this. Then that makes you make good decisions on how you do it, particularly if you're making decisions for race fans and other people that are going to participate in it. The heart and soul of America won out, and we pulled up our bootstraps and went back at it.
One time you felt like everybody was standing on the same ground at the same time, wanting the same thing.
The sport's always been super patriotic. As far as the national anthem, you see it every week, and we say a prayer before every race. But this is the first time I ever remember saying the Pledge of Allegiance in the driver's meeting.
Mike Helton stopped me and said, hey, I want you to do something for us. I said, what's that? He said, I need for you to say the Pledge of Allegiance in the driver's meeting.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
For him to ask me was one of the highest honors that I could think of that anybody's asked me to do like that.
You could feel the unity, everybody coming together.
We had 140,000 people in the grandstands. Everybody held a flag or flags.
It was a sight and a sound and an energy that I've never experienced at any event.
I'm really proud of the pre-race ceremony, the invocation and the different music leading up to the national anthem and the flags, and you quickly begin to feel like this is exactly what we should have done.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to lead 193 of 400 laps. The American and checkered flags out at Dover. Earnhardt Jr. wins.
You couldn't have written that any better.
So after the race was over, we all jumped down at the pit box, and I happened to be sitting next to that flag. And the next thing you know, we're still wearing our headsets. Dale calls over, where's that big flag at? And I had the flag in my hand, and I jumped over the wall and gave it to him.
You know, it feels good to be back in the race car, and I'm glad I could be the guy to win the race so I could carry the American flag around there, and that made me feel good.
You're proud to be a part of a community that feels that strongly about the American spirit.
We had to come back to show that nothing like that's going to stop us.
It basically set, I know the NASCAR world, but maybe the country off in the right direction again.